What?
We'll see.
What?
Yeah.
Photobombed. Move your
P51.
pointer, please.
It's a bomb.
Bill, the cursor, I think,
Is
is
the cursor on
What's
there?
the matter?
Cursor.
base of the cursor.
I'll chase it out there.
There we go.
Was that sharpened up at all?
No, that's it.
It's a little out of focus. I'd give it a 11. I'm not sure. It just looks like it's been pasted there, you know, and it could just be. It could like the.
Rob, did you know that the title was Photo Bond?
Oh, okay, so. All right. I still get. I'm a little confused by it. I'd give it an 11 for sure. The composition's off, and I don't know. I'm not sure.
Hot air balloons.
So there's that shot I talked about, 200 yards away, right? But it's still great context, and you know, you can't control where they're going to be or how high they're going to go or any of that fun stuff. A little sensor dust right here. I can clean those. But you know, look for these kinds of things, right? Because these little things, you know, they're small, but taking them out doesn't take long, and it really will draw. People will see it, they'll look at it. You know, especially if they end up getting that printed 16 by 20 in their house, and there's a black dot in the center of it. You don't want that to happen for sure. The technicality is definitely there. This could have benefited from a little bit of a narrower aperture, because I can see some out of focus drop here and here. If they're going to be in there, and you're going to be that far away, I'd try to keep the aperture higher and see more into the image in terms of depth. Give it a 12.
Yankee Lady.
It's so funny to me that, you know, when we look at planes from a previous era, how black and white is always chosen. That's a really nice mix. I like the wispy clouds in the back. I'd like to see this image in color, to be honest with you. But, you know, again, that's artistic choice. I like that we have a little bit of blur on the props, just a tiny bit to show that rotation, give it some context. I'd give that a 14.
Made it to Cleveland.
Again, I love forced perspective stuff, and you know, we see a little bit of Cleveland back here, right? And we see the prop company name and a little bit of the people hanging out, and that's really cool. I like finding reflections and symmetry and things. That's really cool. I'll give that a 14 for sure. Maybe change the angle on the reflection a little bit so there's not people standing there.
Georgia Girl.
It's been softened a little bit, but overall it's a pretty good image. Again, I think it's. I'd give it a 13. You know, there's a little too much sky up here for my liking, but again, that's totally a choice.
Departing to deliver the autumn.
So this has been photoshopped to be out of focus, I think, because I see an area here that was like around the engine that was a little less touched up. It's a little too much of a push digitally, in my opinion. Give it an 11.
A World War II icon, the Memphis Belle.
The cutout really draws away from here, especially because there's strays here, and then like not a sharp line here. I'd give that a 9. Maybe go back in and you know, work with Photoshop a little bit more. I'm not sure what was around it that you wanted to remove or not see. But the problem is that you have this black area and then you have this massive powered light on our subject, right? So it really starts to, yeah, I mean, like right here, these are supposed to be antenna. Well, I don't know if they're antenna or what they are from the plane itself, but they're supposed to be straight lines. You can see the cutout kind of cut into them a little bit. And then down here, there's some leftover on the prop. And we've got spots over here from the cutout as well.
High flying.
That's really cool. Again, just a little top crop, but that I don't even know that you necessarily need it. Gotta love air shows, you know? The way these people fly within 10 feet of each other, basically the width of the plane. It's pretty, as someone who recreationally flies with a friend of mine, it's some pretty impressive stuff. I like the framing. It could use a little crop, you know, off the top and maybe off this a little bit. Give it a 14.
Hydroflight.
Okay, I knew we were going to run into one of these eventually, but this is really cool, and you know he's in flight, so I'll give you that. I'm thinking this might be from that Hydra company that comes in during the Erie Poker Run in June. And I think this photographer, or I don't know where it is, but whoever this photographer is, must have seen this person do a couple flips and waited to kind of get this around the boat thing. It's shot from really far away, I can tell that. That's a really great use. It's almost a golden spiral composition. I give that a 15. That's really impactful. That's awesome. And I love the high shutter. You see all the little water sprays off, and the tube isn't in the way of the image. You got someone to watch it. That's cool. Yeah, give that a 15.
Bird's eye view.
That's just cheating. That's really cool. Yeah, that's perfect. That's just great. That's perfect. That's really awesome. Great choice of shutter speed. Really tricky too. I don't know what kind of plane, whoever's taking this, what plane you're flying in, but you know, I've shot out of planes before, and it's not easy, even at high shutter speeds, to get everything sharp. And you know, you're probably at 1/250th of a second to get that much blur in these blades, maybe a little less. So yeah, that's really cool. I like the little neighborhoods below, you know, and then we can't see the horizon. That's really cool. Give it a 15. Now that I've scored it, where's that over?
Guard transport.
Again, vignettes, I'm not a huge fan of it. That's my taste, and that's my choice. It's a little grainy, probably from push editing. Give it a 12.
One peek is worth 1,000 instrument cross-checks.
Like making you nervous, right? This guy's over here like, what are we doing? Refueling, that's cool. You know, this is a process we don't see very often. That's cool. I like how you can kind of see the motor, the jet engine kind of just peeking out here. The composition is cool. We can see the pilot right here. I like that. I give that a 14 for sure.
World's fastest spy plane.
Nice. I can't figure out if this is a model or just, it looks like somebody's model, but then I don't know.
Did a lot of Photoshop.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's definitely been texturized for sure. I don't know if this is someone's model on a desk, but this right here, this line doesn't make any sense to me, so I feel like there's been some Photoshop below. I'd give it a 10. It's a little too much Photoshop work for my liking.
Boys and their toys.
I don't know if this was shot with a real tilt shift or it was done in post, but if it's a real tilt shift lens, it's a really nice job of shooting a tilt shift. Composition is cool. It's an aircraft, you know, so meets the criteria. I'm not a huge, you know, I think the tilt shift's been added because the line is sort of there, and tilt shifts still have a linear plane. So I think it's been added. If you do add a fake tilt shift like that, always keep it on a linear plane, because that's how they break. They don't break in circles like this. Unless you were free-lensing it, that's a possibility. I'd give it a 12.
Training facilities.
It's a nice plane. I like that you can't see the rest of it. I'd like to see it in color. I only take points off because it's not in color. I think that's probably a really beautiful plane. I'd like to see what it looks like in this painted, because I'd imagine these are all painted. You know, sometimes going to black and white takes away. It's a nice Cirrus. Give it 13.
Thunderbirds.
Yeah, that's like iconic, right? Yeah, that's crazy. That's two planes, because it doesn't look like it's two planes, but it is. That's a 15 for sure. Yeah, they're right on each is on the third. I don't even mind the negative space because that's where they're traveling. That's great. That is two planes, right?
Yes.
Thank you.
In
I figured it
memory-
was, but I want to check.
In memory of those who have served.
Again, I would have pushed the background a little more. I would have widened the aperture to blur this out, because the background is drawing away from what you're trying to get at here. And the false vignette around the outside, I'm not a huge fan. I'd give it an 11. Maybe just a little bit too much post work.
Ghostly cockpit.
Someone's doing a little IR work. I don't know if this is real IR, or I don't know if someone has an IR camera or they've just used an IR filter. The trees are a little distracting here. I would either drop below and get them out of there entirely, or reposition to this open space here. Give it an 11.
What happens with your toys when you are sleeping?
You know, is it? I mean, are you allowed to have created images?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right, cool, that's fair. It's a good created image, right? I like the idea. I don't know if the bear's in this toy or just photoshopped in there, I can't quite tell. Yeah, I'll give it some creativity, I like this idea. I'll give it a 12.
Above the clouds.
I'm not sure, I don't think any planes have square windows. So I don't know, yeah, and in the end, yeah, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be, is the image just supposed to be the middle here, or is it supposed to be the whole thing, or, I'm not really sure. Give it an 11 just because I'm not sure what the objective is there. I don't know if this is created on the outside or,
At Erie International Airport.
I'm assuming they just fired the motors and that's the smoke that we see right here. It's kind of cool, it's also a little distracting, so the frames after this are probably a little more powerful, because I think we see right here we have the ground operators sort of telling them what to do. I like this up here, it's a little bit matted, it looks like it's been, you know, clarity has been bumped a little bit. Give it a 12.
Sopwith 1 1/2 Struther still flying.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. We have that 50-50 split again with composition, so a couple points lost there. I'd give it a 12.
Resurrected vintage fighter plane.
Created image, but a decent composition job. A little bit off the front here. I'd give it a 13.
Coming in for a landing.
Halfway decent Photoshop job here, actually. The shadow lines match with the ground, so I'll give you a 13 on that. That's good.
Ready for takeoff.
I like that you can't tell if that's a model. I mean, I know it's a real full-size plane, but just the angle of view kind of makes it look like a little bit of a toy model. I love the ripples in the water here that they're breaking. That's really cool. I give that a 14 only because I would probably center crop it. I wouldn't leave this extra space over here.
Night glow at Balloon Fiesta.
These night glows are awesome. They're really cool. Yeah, that's a really cool image. I feel like it's a little too orange, but there is also a lot of orange burn, so sometimes that's just what it looks like. I'd give that a 15. That's really well done.
Blue Angel 2018.
Again, that iconic look. It looks like he's just about to do the missing man this way. And I like that you can just barely see that missing man formation break. Just a little bit. He's just breaking formation. You know, there's people that go and try to photograph this all the time and never quite get there. So that's really cool. I'd give that a 15 for sure. I'm a little biased, I like planes.
Cemetery Sentinel.
The only thing that because the aperture is so narrowed, the trees, the plane, everything's in focus. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to look at this gentleman here or the plane. I think this could have benefited from a shallow depth of field where our person kneeling is in focus, and like you can still see that the plane is there, but it's about this guy. And I'm assuming that it's about this guy more than it's about the plane. I would focus more on him, but again, if you want to focus on the plane, that's fine, but he needs to be out of focus so you look right at the plane. So I would give it an 11, but you know, you're real close there. That could be a really powerful portrait. You know, if this is a loved one here, this is a really powerful portrait for sure.
Blue Skies, Blue Angels.
It looks like the shadows have been pushed a lot here to bring out the underside of these planes. You got to be careful. See little halos right in here, where the sky changes from a light blue to a dark blue. Just try not to push those that far, because it becomes really apparent. And the thing is, this is fine for projecting on a screen, but if you ever go and get this printed, it won't look as good as you want it to look. And you know, if a client's buying it, you never know what could happen there. I would give it an 11.
Tied Down.
Got a little bit off crop here, and it might be just to accommodate the wings, although it does have a little bit of an up swoop, so maybe just a little rotation, not much, 1 or 2% to flatten out that horizon line. I would get a little lower and get more tarmac out of focus with the plane in focus and sort of cut right at the top of this tree line. Give it a 13. Just a little bit of technicality stuff in there.
Abstract, Bottoms Up.
I'm not sure if this was... I like it. I can't tell if it's a...
Everything in a photograph has to be photographed. In
I'm sorry?
our competition, everything in a photograph has to be something you photograph.
Okay. All right, so it did start as a photo.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. I would give it an 11. It's a cool digital coloration on a photograph. But I'm not sure that I like it. I feel like it's gone way too far. But again, it could be what you're looking for. It's hard to judge something like that, especially when it's digitally created.
The Bald Eagle lands victorious.
Could have benefited from just a slightly faster shutter, but it's minor. I think there's been some removal over here. It looks like some duplication right there. And there's definitely some duplication there, maybe. I like the composition, technicalities there, exposures there. I'd give that 14. A little faster shutter. Again,
NASCAR flyover.
that's really cool, great perspective. Hard to get that underlighting right when you have that bright sun above. I'll ask after. I think this is a neutral density shot. If there's a neutral density on the front of that camera, that's really cool. That's really cool. I'll give it 15. Whoever shot it was a neutral density on there.
Yes.
Okay, that's it.
Acrobats.
That's really cool too. Lining up with their brake line, you know, that's really cool. I love that you can't see the wing right here. I think that's really awesome. That's a 15 too, for sure. There's gonna be a lot more 15s because there's a lot of really cool plane stuff in here.
Apollo 11 command
I'm gonna
module.
throw space stuff at me. It's like everything I wanted to do as a kid. All right. I think this is at the actual the NASA Museum. I can't think of its name. It's not NASA Museum.
Smithsonian.
Smith? Is it Smithsonian? I don't know.
I think that's where
Air
it's
and
at.
space,
Yeah, Air and Space Museum.
Okay. Well,
Smithsonian.
anyway, really cool. It looks like there's been some removal, and I wouldn't remove what's around it. I don't know what's around it. I don't know if there's just a ton of people. But, you know, in something like this, I'm going to ask after we score it. I'm going to score it 13 just because of the removal that's around the outside here, and then I'm going to ask a question right after you advance it. So whoever took that, can we go back to it real quick? Whoever took this, was there a lot of people standing around it?
Is the person here?
The person here that took this? Of course. Okay, so I'm assuming that it was removed because there was probably a ton of people standing around. So one of the things you can do, and I don't know if this person had a tripod or not, but you can do averaging where you can take 60 photos of this subject and not move it, and then average them all in Photoshop as layers. And what will happen is wherever there's gaps, they'll erase each other. So you can make it look like there's no one standing in this room even though there was hundreds of people walking through. As long as you get gaps wherever people were, as long as you get gaps in one of the photos, they'll average out. So that's one technique that you can use to, you know, if like you're at Niagara Falls, for example, and there's hundreds of people standing along the railing and you want the falls and nobody in front of them, set the camera up on a tripod, set up a time-lapse capture where it captures a frame every second, and just let it run for 120 frames, then bring them all in Photoshop and layer them on top of each other. And then layer them as average multiply, and then they'll just erase each other. And the falls repeat forever, so every image displays the same pixels for the falls. They'll all blend together like you want them to. They won't go away, but the averages of the people will. So that's one way to kind of, in a congested area like this that's in a museum, you can remove people without going in and, you know, erasing. That's my little lesson spiel for the day.
That's good. That was a good one. There's 2 ways to get there from here, ma'am.
I like this right up here. That's good. I want to know where this is. This is awesome. It's a little grainy. I think it's because it's probably past dusk and it's been pushed. I like the composition though. It's been resaturated in the shadows. It's been bumped to show